Hey everybody, this is Ryan McClanahan with historythroughcards.com. I hope you're all doing very well today. So in this video, I want to share with you something that I got in the mail that I think you might enjoy. At least I do. And that happens to be this Football Association. It's the entire set with album from W.D and H.O. Wills. My journey into vintage soccer is somewhat recent, only since 2022, and I'm going to go into a little bit about that. But I thought you guys might enjoy this, so here we go. All right, I had to show you this. This is really cool. Obviously, I didn't pay the was it £2 and 50 quid, whatever it is. Uh, W.D and H.O. Wells had really been around forever. I think since the 1890s. Essentially, there was five tobacco companies over in Great Britain that formed one large trust, if you will, or a monopoly, kind of like here. Uh, but over there, it wasn't really regulated, so I don't think there was much of a problem as it was here, where really nobody decided, the American Tobacco Company, to break it up until the Nazis did, in fact. And one thing which I really kind of take into consideration when I'm looking at something like this is the history, not just of the sport, but of the companies themselves. During the Battle of Great Britain, the Nazi Luftwaffe bombed the factory that these came out of, and the the company was never really the same. They also had a printing shop too, Marsden Hill, I believe, and that was also destroyed by the Nazis. So anyway, really, I think for me, I didn't know a whole lot about soccer, even though I played the sport when I was a kid. I wasn't really good at it, to tell you the truth, but I was playing on a team with a bunch of my classmates, and it's one of the reasons why I joined up, and just to get out of the house and do something as well, hang out with my buddies. But I really didn't know that there was a lot of soccer cards out there. I had no idea until 2022 when I was in the National, and I came across a dealer that had a bunch of vintage soccer or football cards, if you will, there. And I didn't know any of the names. I did see at least two of these, and this gentleman here, Billy Meredith, which I did a video on. I thought this was just such a cool card that I decided to, well, I said I wanted to find out more about Billy Meredith here and more about the sport itself, which, you know, I think that's one thing that the hobby maybe uh, could do a better job on, as promoting players or cards from the past a little bit more than what is going on, at least that I see in YouTube, is that that's not really the case. And I could be completely wrong about that, and I'm not always correct, but I came across a bunch of players on cards that I had no idea or had little idea about any of that. And I also did come across a very interesting card as well from cricket, which I had only learned a little bit about cricket from a coworker who was in the Air Force back in the 1960s, and he was stationed over there after he came back from Vietnam. He was stationed over in Scotland, and in Scotland you can't wear your military uniform, but he said that he used to go to see cricket games all the time, and he really kind of introduced me to the sport. And I didn't know that there were cards of cricket players out there, and this is a 1938 players, Don Bradman. Don Bradman has a lot of cards out there, but both of these are probably the largest sports in the world, and their cards are fairly affordable here for the most part. I think they're gaining some traction. Don Bradman's really kind of like the Babe Ruth of cricket, and he's got, I think, probably one of the highest quote unquote batting averages that it may not be exceeded. Or if it has, it's only been quite recently, but I think it's like somewhere in the 900s. It's a different sport altogether. I get it, but I just wanted to show you guys that if you see something that you're interested in, just do research, and that's what I really did. So I went back from the national in 2022, which it was a blast. I loved that national. It was so much fun, and I was there last year as well at the national in Chicago. I'll be at this year's national as well. So if you do see me, just say hello, and I'd love to talk to you guys. But this was really, I think, the card that set off my fascination with vintage soccer. And I got back from the national, and picked this card up. I think I paid like 200 or so for it, or a little bit under that. Now I think you can probably get it for a lot cheaper. A lot of these cards are still over in England and Great Britain, and I definitely want to make my way over there to see what's going on. They're the first ones to have an organized sports card hobby going back to 1927, and then Jefferson Burdick obviously organized the hobby here in America in the tail end of 1935. But I thought this was a really awesome card that set off my journey into the world of vintage soccer. And then on top of it too is I saw a card of Steve Bloomer here, which I did another video on, and I really enjoy this card as well. What's kind of interesting here is that it is the same manufacturer, but PSA did not put down Steve Bloomer. So if you did see this card, you may not know that he's one of the greatest football players or soccer players of his era, as is Billy Meredith here, which they did put on the flip here. But it's basically it's kind of interesting that they did that, and then I'm not sure what this is all about here. Um, so I wish PSA would get it together a little bit more than what it is now, but it is what it is, I guess. I don't want to go down that road, that rabbit hole of hating PSA, because I don't hate them, but I think they need to clean it up. Anyway, getting back to this here, I really enjoy the artwork on this set. I already looked at it a little bit, and on the side here, you have the FA Cup winners from 1900 to 1935, and that was really interesting. And I still have a long way to go when it comes to doing research and reading up on soccer. And I did play it as a kid, but again, I wasn't all that great at it, so I quit to play baseball, which is a better sport for me back in the day. I paid like $12 for this, so that was fine for me. And again, I'm a real big fan of these kind of sets because of the artwork. I still don't know who all the players are because, like, again, like I don't know everything, and that would really suck if I did. There is some very well-known names here. Eddie Hapgood, for example, he's not in the Hall of Fame, but he's very well known. I think he may be in the Football League 100 Legends. I'll probably do a video on him at some point. The bios that you see here are on the back of these cards, and they're pasted on as intended. I didn't have any regular cards that I was aware of. In fact, I do actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I do actually have this card. This is Stanley Matthews, and he is probably one of the greatest soccer players of his era. it's not his rookie. I do actually have his rookie. This card's actually quite affordable for the average collector, but he had a very long career, 1932 to 1965. He was one of the oldest active players, and he kept in shape his entire career. So let me just show you real quickly. I do have a few other Stanley Matthew cards, and this happens to be his rookie from 1934. It's Carrier cigarettes. I'll show you the back. This one actually is kind of expensive. This can get one pretty expensive. I got really lucky with this, and I think it has come down in price a little bit, but that is generally considered his rookie. And he was the first recipient of the Ballon d'Or in 1956, and he's the only football player or soccer player that was knighted during his career. So he is Sir Stanley Matthews, but he does have a lot of cards out there because he had a very long career. And in doing research for him, I'll probably actually end up doing another video specifically on Stanley Matthews here. I kind of feel like he's a forgotten ball player, but even when I was growing up playing soccer, I did hear the name Stanley Matthews, so it wasn't like I wasn't unaware of who he was. One of the things that you might want to keep in mind is that he does have another card that is somewhat similar. So as you can see here, that the backs can be the most confusing if you're not familiar with either one of these sets. The one where it looks like his shirt is ripped is and it's got the blue background. That's 1939, and uh, I believe that was also a set that you could put into a an album. I don't think I've ever seen that album, but again, this is a card that is pretty affordable for the average person in 1939 as well. His cards, I think, have gone down a little bit in price, except for the Carrias there because it is his rookie, and that set in general is kind of tough. Getting back to this, let me show you a few other Carry-Ass cards that I do actually have from that set. The first one here is Alex James, and he is in the Hall of Fame. I believe he retired in about 1936, 1937. I believe due to severe arthritis. But then like he ended up in like World War II. So, and I know Johnny Bowers also the hockey player. He had arthritis and he got out of World War II. He was in for like 1942 or 43. But then he had like a very long career as a goalie. So go figure. Anyway, Alex James. He should be in this set. I haven't seen him yet. I'm gonna go through the rest of them, but that can also be a kind of a challenging card as well. And then Dixie Dean here is very, very well known. He's another one of the first players to be inducted into the Football Hall of Fame in England, the English Football Hall of Fame. As far as I know, he hated the name Dixie. It's another kind of expensive card. I want to say he ended up with 60 goals in 60 games, something incredible like that. But he's another legend, and I did a lot of research on him, but I couldn't find a whole lot in the newspapers at the time. Generally, I like to go off of the Irish sports pages because they give a great overview on the player's history. But I couldn't really find a whole lot on him for some reason. I'm not even sure why, but I will go and tell you guys a little bit more about Stanley Matthews here when I can. Uh, Again, this is kind of an expensive card, but he does have a lot of cards out there too. I believe he had a fairly lengthy career. Another one is Harry Hibbs here, and he's Not in the Hall of Fame, but he is in the Football League 100 Legends. And so I might just do a video on him too. A very, very well-known football player, soccer player. So those are the gentlemen that I have for that particular set, and that was really kind of something new that I picked up recently because I've never been able to get my hands on any of those cards. They were quite expensive a couple of years ago, and for some reason, a lot of this stuff has kind of like not gone up in value as you would think it should because the soccer or football is really popular. And I have been watching some soccer, and here in Boston, we had a flood of Scottish people come over to watch Scotland in the World Cup here in Boston, and they were really nice. And the drawback, I think, for having so many Scots here was that they drank all of our Guinness. They closed down at least one or two pubs, if you will, here. They drank them out of their beer, which was really funny. But they were great to talk to, and they really kind of enjoyed their time here in Boston. So it was fun having the Scots here in Boston. Getting back to some of these cards here, I think the drawbacks kind of outweigh the positives to having a set like this. First, if you are going to complete a set like this, don't do it individually. Get the set as a whole because trying to, as far as like familiar with trying to complete sets from Great Britain, it is very difficult to try to hand collate a set. So, and it's going to be cheaper too than trying to buy individual cards like this. And then one of the positive things, obviously, if you're into art, well, this is a great set. If you want to find out more about the history of the players or their teams or soccer in general, I think this is a great set, and I think it's a great starter set for anyone who wants to build a football or soccer collection. And I'm still learning about this stuff, so it's continuous. And because baseball and now even football, American football, that is really getting quite expensive. There are other sports that are very cheap, like cricket again, uh, tennis can be very affordable. Golf, not so much, and it used to be golf used to be pretty cheap, pretty affordable, vintage golf that is, for the average collector, and I don't think that's been the case now for a couple of years. Uh, but again, what's kind of interesting is that uh, both cricket and soccer have the largest fan base of any sport, and their cards are very affordable for the most part. That doesn't mean to say that they're all cheap. There's some very expensive soccer cards out there. And what's really interesting too about Stanley Matthews is that he did play an exhibition game against this gentleman right here, Pele, and this is a 1971 Barrett. And I've had this for a number of years. I really enjoy it, but I think I really would like to try to get another Pele card just because I want something in a soccer jersey of his, and he does have a number of cards that are well, they are kind of like mid affordable, probably $200 or so or less. Stanley Matthews also played against Bobby Charlton here too. This is a 1961 Kellogg's, and this is not his rookie, but it's a really nice card in a small set, which you guys can pick up the entire set fairly affordably. So Another Stanley Matthews card I just wanted to show you guys real quickly is this right here. It is a 1934 elongated press. I do have the entire set, and I did a video on it, but I have another copy of Stanley Matthews here. So he does have a lot of cards out there, uh, and you guys can pick them up fairly affordably. And then Dixie Dean, which I'm not seeing here. This is a 1936. Is it Wills? No, it's a Gallagher. So you guys can pick up most of his cards fairly affordably too. So let's continue with this. I think we're kind of done here. This is a set of 50, by the way. One of the drawbacks is that Dixie Dean is not in this set, but Stanley Matthews is. I think you have to really enjoy the artwork and the history of soccer, and then um, it's not all that expensive. I don't think you're going to get a whole lot of money for this stuff if you're a flipper. That's what I have for you today, guys. I would love to get your opinion on some of these cards in this set. I think you might have probably better luck with maybe the 1934 Carriaz set in terms of Hall of Famers, or the 1939 Will's set might be a better choice, actually. The artwork is a little bit different here. This is Pete Doherty. He's a Hall of Famer. And then you have Tommy Lawton here, too, and he's also another Hall of Famer. But the 1939 set, if you're looking for Hall of Famers, this might be a better decision. And so I also do have I also do have a few modern players as well that I recently picked up too. Uh, and I do have a few cards of Lionel Messi here, but I never had one of Cristiano Ronaldo. So I did pick up these two, and I thought they were really cool. The design is really neat as well. I'm not entirely sure if they're in 2017. I think the problem with a lot of modern cards is they're not distinct to the era in which they're being printed. So, like in the 1930s, you knew exactly what was a 1930s card, right? In the 1980s, you definitely knew the card was printed in the 80s because it had a distinct style to it. And for the most part, I think that the majority of cards over the last 25 years at least, there's nothing that screams 2010s or 2020s or 2000s, right? So uh, initially I couldn't tell you when these things were printed, but I really wanted a card of both of these guys, and if there's any players out there that you want me to cover, let me know. Or if there's any cards out there that you might want to say, hey, listen, like go and check these cards out. You might like them. Just tell me in the description below. And so, guys, I'm gonna leave it here for now, but I'd love to get your take on some of these cards. And thank you so much for stopping by. I greatly appreciate it, and have a happy 4th of July.